Hello and welcome to this episode of NEWSMAKERS, where we get up close and personal with people who are making Goa and the world sit up and take notice. From theatrists to historians, we've hosted many talented and committed individuals bringing you their stories to inspire and engage. Now, over the last month, our collective consciousness has been impacted by Gen Z. So today, we have a Gen Zer with us in the house. And at an age where most people are starting out in their graduate studies or settling into the middle of their creative studies, storming quietly onto London's music stage, all of 17 years old and a musical force in the making, is Rebecca de Souza. She's fresh off having her orchestral composition Stormbreak premiered at no less than St. Peter's Vauxhall in London by the Centre for Young Musicians Symphony Orchestra, and she's here to speak with us. Rebecca, welcome to Doordarshan and thank you for meeting with us.
Thank you, Runa.
It's lovely to have you here.
It's a pleasure to be here.
So I cannot help but start at the end. Vauxhall and the premiere of Stormbreak. That's you announcing yourself, not subtly, not quietly, but storming onto the world stage. How does that feel?
The Guildhall School of Music and Drama, which I study with, gave me the opportunity to work with the CYM Symphony Orchestra on my piece Stormbreak. And it was incredible because as a composer, we spent months working on music that only exists in our imagination. Mm-hmm. And when we hand it over to musicians, it's quite unlike anything you can ever imagine. It surpasses that because every single musician adds their own creative flair to it, and it ends up being even greater than you can ever imagine. And this concert was particularly special because when I was doing research for Stormbreak, Dame Judith Ware, who is the master of King Charles's music, she wrote a piece called Shipwreck, and I heavily researched that, and I took inspiration from that when I was researching the piece. And she was actually the chief guest at this concert.
Well, that's lovely.
So that was really special.
Great. So what was the journey getting here?
The journey was really incredible, but it was also really long, so forgive me. But it started when I was 5 years old and I was singing solos at church. Then at 6, I started playing the piano, and at 7, I released my album called Wonderfully Made. After that, due to piano, I got selected for the Kappa Sammelan, which is held by the internationally renowned musician Patricia Rosario and Mark Troop. And then I got an honorable mention in the classics piano competition held by progressive musicians. During that time, I also used to record for church services for Father Rob Gallia. And then, yes, of course. Then after that, I moved to London, where I did my grade 8, and now I'm currently studying for the ARSM diploma. One of my teachers is actually the head of composition at the Royal Academy of Music in London, and he teaches me composition mentoring. And alongside in that incredible hall, I got to play with the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra and the Antigua and Barbuda Youth Symphony Orchestra. Another great staff member at the Royal Academy of Music is Stuart Morley, who is the mentorship director, and I actually got the chance to work with him and conduct in the Sondheim Theatre for Les Miserables, which is the longest musical theatre that London's West End has ever seen. And from that, I got a conducting scholarship at Guildhall for the summer, and now I currently study there. And their incredible tutorage has led me to win the Senior Young Musician of the Year Award for the Diocese of Westminster and the Jack Petchey Outstanding Achiever Award.
That's a lot of achievement. That's a lot of achievement for someone so young. And so I can see the emotion as you're talking, and I can see the excitement as you kind of recount each of those phases and stages. But I'm going to go back, not right to the beginning, but a little past. 10 years now, because you talked about Wonderfully Made when you were 7.
Yes.
So that's now coming on the 10th anniversary. What does that feel like?
I recorded Wonderfully Made when I was 6 years old, and I released it when I was 7. So Wonderfully Made is a kids' praise album that was written by my mother, and I sang it. And it was incredible because it allowed me, it introduced me to the music world from a young age. And it was very inspiring to see such incredible professional musicians collaborate together And it was even more fun because in the music video process, I got to be alongside it with all my friends. But something has always held my heart, and that was that all the proceeds of the album went to the NGO called Stars.
Your grandmother and mother are both musicians themselves. Did you ever feel pressured to make a mark in music?
I don't think I've ever felt pressured. For those of you who don't know, my grandmother is a music teacher, vocalist and conductor, and my mum is a singer and a songwriter. But I don't think I've ever felt pressured because from a young age, my grandmother nurtured my love for music and taught me the importance of discipline and excellence, while my mother always pushed me to be the best that I possibly could be. So I don't think I've ever felt pressured. It just always came natural.
That's nice to grow up in a musical environment. I've sung with your mother, by the way, at the Stuti choir, and I've heard choirs conducted by your grandmom. So it's lovely to have that kind of an environment all around. Now, you're no session musician, you're not a professional gig player, you're into the serious stuff based on the rubrics of classical music and that kind of pedagogy. So what is a typical workday like for you?
Well, my typical workday is pretty structured because I balance different forms of study. But one thing that has always stuck with me from my childhood is that I practice the piano 3 times a day. So in the morning, when I come home from school, and then again before I go to sleep. And while I'm doing that, I'm also studying for my A-levels in mathematics, chemistry and physics. And of course, then I'm studying at the Guildhall theory, composition and of course conducting.
Okay, so you said now you practice 3 times a day. I'm going to ask you, why did you choose orchestral composing? One could argue that a solo musician is more seen, more remembered, possibly success is more immediately accessible. So why composition?
Well, I've always loved performing. It allows me to express the music that's given to me on a page, and conducting has allowed me to bring together different voices of the orchestra to create something magical. But composition is particularly special because it allows me to create something new and original which has only previously existed in my imagination.
Okay, but it's a much bigger ask, isn't it?
It is a much bigger ask, but it's definitely much more rewarding.
You think so?
Yes.
Great. I hope you stay on that track. Now, many of our viewers are music lovers and musicians themselves, but they might never get to the infrastructure that you are a part of, that is part of your everyday life. So can you tell our viewers something about the magic of the London music scene? You know, there's Guildhall, there's Vauxhall, there's Trinity College, there's the Royal Academy of Music, and you are there, you know, which for so many people is exciting, is aspirational, but is also something that they just admire from afar. So tell us, take us on a tour through that.
Of course, London is home to some of the most incredible institutions, world-class institutions. It's home to the 3 top best musical institutions in the world, which is the Royal Academy of Music, the Guildhall School of Music and Drama, and the Royal College of Music. And being surrounded in that atmosphere with world-class musicians, I was very fortunate to have auditioned and got a place at the Guildhall. And alongside that, of course, I have done programs and workshops at the Royal Academy. And being surrounded in that atmosphere always keeps me humble, but always pushes me to be the very best.
Are there days when you go in and you feel daunted by all of the excellence that you probably see? Of course, far more senior to you because you're still at kind of the beginning of that journey. But are there days when you say, wow, I'm here, what am I doing here?
Yes, of course. I think every musician will experience like a little bit of self-doubt that maybe they're not meant to be here. But I think even like to go audition at the most prestigious stages, I always tell myself that, you know, you have to start somewhere. And no matter what, if you give it your best, everything will work out in the end.
That's a good lesson for all of us. Now, music is hard work, even when you love it. So who or what inspires you to keep going at it every day?
Well, I'm very blessed to have a family that's always been so gracious and always encouraged me to give it my absolute best, no matter what. And that alongside the incredible tutors I've had, both in India and in the UK. Without them, I do owe everything to them, and I'm very grateful for everything they've taught me.
Anyone special that really, Apart from everybody in the family that we know, that's always your backbone, but any particular personality, teacher that's...
Of course. I think that would be Garrett Moorcroft, who is the head of composition at the Royal Academy of Music.
Okay. What's your dream?
Hopefully in the future I will be creating even larger orchestral works, maybe be an internationally renowned pianist, but I think most importantly, I really hope that I have the same love and passion for music that I had when I was a little girl just singing in church.
So you talked about doing larger pieces. Tell us about Stormbreak. How long is that and what does that entail?
Stormbreak is an orchestral composition that I wrote, and it was for all the instruments of the orchestra.
Okay.
It did take a while to write, but I think it was definitely one of the most rewarding pieces I've ever heard.
Okay, and how long is Stormbreak?
Stormbreak is about 3.5 minutes.
Okay, and how long did it take you?
It did take me a couple of months to do it.
And how large was the orchestra that performed it?
It was a standard symphony orchestra, so you had all the parts. So you had strings, you had brass, you had woodwinds and percussion.
Okay, great. And how many people in the orchestra?
I think that would be maybe about 100 people.
Wow, that is impressive. Yeah. That's really impressive. And are you amongst the youngest composers whose pieces? Congratulations. When you write a piece of music across so many instruments, do you need to know how to play them, or do you need to have in your head what they sound like, or both?
I don't play all of the instruments, so I don't think it's necessary to learn to play all of them. But I do think you need to have some knowledge about how each instrument works, maybe their range, maybe their limitations. And I was very lucky that I got to try out my piece. So it went into rehearsal, then I could make like edits, and then finally the piece was premiered.
So where does Goa feature in or figure in this entire scheme of things now?
Well, Goa's always been home, and it's a part of who I am as a musician. I think that no matter where my career takes me, I always hope to represent Goa on that international stage. And maybe in the future, when I'm a more established musician, I hope to come back and give back to Goa the knowledge and experience that I've had by maybe nurturing the next young generation of musicians.
That would be wonderful, and I think they would be very lucky to have you over here. Not just in terms of, the skill and the talent, but also in terms of information on how to navigate their way to, or the pathways to where you have been, and some of those halls as well. Now, once the storm settles with the excitement over this performance, and I'm sure there will be many, many more, once you move away from the eye of this storm, rather, what next?
Well, Stormbreak's just the beginning, hopefully. And as I said, I'm currently studying for my diploma, and of course I will carry on studying conducting, composition and vocal training. But despite all of that, I hope to continue studying gospel music because it's where I began, and it allows me to use that God-given talent in the way it was intended, and it will always be at the heart of who I was as a musician.
That's lovely. I hope and pray that the blessings that flow from gospel music always color your music and your voice. Do you have any, you're young, so for me to ask you this, I don't think is misplaced, because I think you've done a lot in your few years, and you're not yet at university, right? You've still got some time to get there. Do you have any messages or any thoughts you'd like to share with our viewers or with other young people?
I believe that music has the power to unite, and if music can be used to create a positive impact on people, that success makes it even more meaningful. And I believe that if you have the power to create something good for people, you should.
That's lovely, Rebecca. Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure sitting and interacting with you. I wish you all the very best. I hope we see you back on this stage, and I'm sure we will sooner or later. I'm sure there's a lot of material and a lot of good things that are going to come from you. And Goa is going to keep its eyes peeled. Maybe the ears peeled as well to hear what's going to come next. Yeah.
Thank you
so much, and all the very best.